Hello again, it's Kelly with Homesteading Hints, and today we're going to talk a bit about watering and watering concerns, and just kind of giving everybody some options and ideas on how we water and what we do to water our plants, as far as in the garden or up at our house in our pots and things like that, with especially with the water restrictions we have and the concern about water usage that's going on right now with a shortage in rainfall. Other than we just actually got a pretty good one last night, but there's supposed to be another one moving through tomorrow, and I think we'll get some more rain out of that. But I mean, the first thing is actually, you probably should be thinking about this, and should have been, and it took me a little while before I figured out we need to think about it before it happens. That's one of the biggest problems, is nobody thinks ahead at drought. It just is, oh, now it's dry and we don't have anything, and what are we doing? We don't have any water. We didn't do anything about it. Now we're told we can't use water during certain times, things like that. And what I did was I actually developed a rain barrel, which this is my rain barrel. And I've used it now, I guess, for probably 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer than that. Yeah, probably 7 or 8 years. It actually holds 270 gallons of water in it, and it comes off the back of our pigeon coop with about 25 foot of gutter with a downspout going directly into it. Now, I don't put any filtration system or anything like that on it. It really doesn't bother me if leaf matter and stuff like that gets into it, as long as it doesn't get caught up in the exit system out here, which it hasn't. And if it does, I have it set up. We have actually, it's a quarter turn valve, and it is narrowed down to a garden hose size. We can put a garden hose onto it and run it to the garden if we want to, but usually we just do buckets. But that has never been clogged on us or anything like that. It runs through pretty good. As you can see, we're filled up to about here with this last rain. It was down about here. I actually usually only takes about an inch. We got about 1.25 inches, but usually takes about an inch to fill it. Only I had a clog up there, so it wasn't coming in as good. I cleaned that out today for tomorrow's rain, so we'll see what we can do. But it doesn't concern me too much anymore. We had the rains we need. We're going to get another one. I always mulch a lot, as you know, and mulch is a huge key to keeping moisture in. If you can keep the moisture in, you aren't going to need to water nearly as much. And if you can get that in a large area around your vegetables, you have a better chance of doing that and keeping it to where you may not even have to water. Now, to be honest with you, I still have not watered tomatoes, peppers, beans, sunflowers, anything like that. The only thing that I watered was
onions, carrots.
Oh yeah, potatoes and onions and carrots. None of those either, or any of my early season crops like my cabbage and cauliflower, stuff like that. Kohlrabi. Yep, none of that's been watered. The only thing that I've done is cucumbers, watermelon, cantaloupe, and some of the squash as well. And a lot of those were transplants, which has been a rough issue for us, not just because of the drought, but because we've had a lot of pests come through, including moles, which actually went underneath and took all the root system out underneath by digging under and having it dry out during the wet time, which is what happens a lot of times when you mulch. The easiest place for a mole to go, and they don't eat herbs, they don't eat plants, they eat bugs and worms and things like that. So they're searching for that. Where the worms and the bugs go, well, they go into the moist spot underneath the mulch, which is right where my plants are, and they tunnel right underneath of it and take out the worms and grubs and all that kind of stuff. Well, when they do that, they knock the dirt off the roots, and then it dries out, and it does that real quickly. So I've had different reasons to transplant a lot of my stuff this year, or replant a lot of my stuff this year. We're doing it again, but we'll make it through. It'll be fine. But okay, this is my 270 gallon rain barrel. Takes usually about an inch of rain over 25 foot by 16 foot to give this thing completely full. It's going to take more like it'll take probably another half inch or so. Will probably fill it now that I got it cleaned out. But I may not use any, and a lot of years I don't use any of it. This year I've used quite a bit. I used it almost 2/3 of the way to the empty. But again, we got rain, so now you don't need it. That is why I say be prepared. Do it in advance. Think about it in advance. Don't, think about it afterwards, because obviously if you're like, oh, I need to put a rain barrel up, but it's not raining. Well, yes, it's too late then. I would rather open this up and flood this area once the fall crop season's out of the way and all of my vegetables are gone than have it be empty when I need it. So that's why it's here. It's done a good job for us when we need it. Other ways of doing things, and we hardly ever take anything from the spigot from the house, and that's our only place to get water is the spigot right off the side of the house. So we don't water the garden with that at all. We use this if we're going to water it. But up at the house we have some pots and annuals and things like that, and we actually use water from our dehumidifier in the basement, and Libby pretty much dumps that twice a day. She goes and waters, and she keeps track of which ones she waters and knows which plants she waters and goes through and periodically waters each one of them. So
it's 7 gallons, so I'm dumping 14 gallons a
gallons
day
from the dehumidifier, which we do in the basement, obviously, to keep some of that moisture and mildew and stuff like that out of the basement. We keep it going most of the time, and even with the dryness that we've had, that was still pumping twice, 2 times filling a day. So we were using 14 gallons on our pots a day. We also have the water from our animals, which when we change out, I usually change it out twice a week, fill it daily, but change it out twice a week. When I do that, I'll take what's left and I'll pour that on the plants as well. It's had a chance for the chlorination to die down, which comes from a lot from your spigots and from city water and things like that. But that I'll put on specific plants as I see needed. I'll dump it into a bucket and carry it out and pour it onto them when I'm changing waters out and things like that. Other things you could do would be if you're taking a shower or your kids are taking a shower or a bath or something like that, you can plug the actual bathtub and save that water, and it's gray water is what it's called then. Save it, scoop it out or pump it out or something like that into a bucket and use that for your watering. Other things would be if you use it for cooking, say if you boiled some eggs or hard boiled some eggs or something like that, you can let it cool, use that for watering, which that actually adds an element of calcium into the water. That's a good way of adding to the your watering as well. Other things would be sink washing dishes. If you have a kiddie pool, something like that, and you're going to change the water out, use that water. Those are ways that you can,
as long as there's not much for chlorine.
Yeah, if you don't chlorinate, yes. But you can get by with using less other water if you double use a lot of water. I mean, reuse it. Be sure you know what kind of chemicals you put in on it. Whatever you use for shampoo, maybe you go to, on those days you're going to save the water, you go to something different on a shampoo or a different type of shampoo, something that's safer for plants, and you can research that and you can find out pretty easily. I know there's baking soda type things and things like that people use on different things, like brushing your teeth another way. If you wanted to save that, you can utilize that water as well. Do those things. We do it kind of as it is anyway, with our dehumidifier, with our birds, things like that, where we reuse water, because honestly, the watering thing is a huge issue for me, and everybody at work knows it. I absolutely hate wasting water. We moved from a place that got 15 inches of moisture a year to a place here that gets 30 plus, usually 40 plus inches a year. So twice to 3 times the amount that we had there. And people still waste water to the extreme out there as well as here, that it frustrates me a lot. I think we just need to be more conscious of what we're doing, because water is the most important resource we have in this world. And when you're starting to have to buy bottled water because you can't drink it out of your spigot or anything like that, if you're having to do that and water's having to be treated because of contaminants, we're already starting to need to be more careful about that, so that we don't run into shortages of good water for us or our kids or our grandkids in the future. So keep that in mind, because it's very important. Water is, again, the most essential nutrient we have in this world. We can go for days without food, but we can't go very long without water. Our plants can't go very long. That's how we eat. So all that kind of stuff. So be aware of it, and I'm just kind of saying that because it is very important to me, and just kind of try and be more mindful of it. One last thing, cauliflower and broccoli, if you're going to replant for fall, now is the time to do that. That was one of the things we were going to go through, and that's really only all I have to say about that is I start them in plug trays. I will start them tomorrow in plug trays, and I'll put them outside under a tree in the shade, and I'll keep them watered. They'll come up. We'll watch them for, I don't know, probably 3-4 weeks until they get big enough and start to get leggy, and then I'll put them outside in one of my cold frames again without the lid on it and just a screen on it. We did really good with our fall cropping of cauliflower and broccoli last year. It turned out like there's hardly any cabbage worms on it. It was a lot cleaner looking than our stuff out here gets when the cabbage worms get to it. They have not really got to it yet because we still keep the screens on them, but trying a few different things. I know that a lot of guys that plant cauliflower in large numbers plant them this time of year for a fall crop because they say that the bugs are minimalistic compared to what happens in the spring. So that's what we're also talking about. But remember your water. Remember trying to save water, even if we get plenty of rain again and fill all the rivers back up and fill all the lakes and ponds back up, that if we get a drought again, we need to pay attention and take advantage of the times when we get water so that we can have it when we are short water. So that's how we do it. And if you need any help or questions or anything like that, just call Ted Lare and I'll try and walk you through it or tell you what I do. And like I said, it works out real well for us. So until next week, thanks everybody, and talk to you later.